I was intrigued by this story, by the way. Sports ministers of 5 European countries have urged broadcasters and FIFA to quickly reach an agreement over unsold Women's World Cup TV rights. This is extraordinary. It's only 50 days, of course, until it begins. FIFA's president threatened a European TV blackout if rights offers were not improved. The UK, France, Spain, Germany and Italy said it was their responsibility to fully mobilise all stakeholders. The World Cup, of course, will be co-hosted by Australia and New Zealand, starts on July the 20th. So, with more women's football on TV than ever before, has it won you over as a fan? Let's speak to Ellis Cashmore, sociologist and cultural critic, because there's some intriguing aspects to this story. Ellis, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, Ian.
I'm sure there's much more to... I'm not an expert on sporting rights. Maybe you are, Ellis. Why am I calling you Alice? I've got no idea. We've only spoken 500 times. Ellis, why they are troubled about trying to reach rights on football. I don't know whether it's connected to what they see as a lack of audience or whether there's some other internal issue going on.
It's directly connected to lack of audience, Ian. They've chosen to place the World Cup this time around in Australia and New Zealand. There's a huge time difference, between Sydney and New York, 14 hours. They're out of sync with the rest of the world, which isn't a problem as far as the Aussies and the Kiwis are concerned.
Sure.
And they've arranged the kickoff times to suit themselves, which is understandable. As hosts, they have that prerogative. But of course, the rest of the world's broadcasters know that their big markets are in the United States and Western Europe, where the populations are bigger, there are more affluent parts of the world, and that's how they sell products. Now, most of the broadcasters who will be transmitting the games are commercially driven, so they live off advertising revenue. The advertisers are saying, well, are people going to get out of bed in the middle of the night to watch football? Or are they going to have the day off work? Or are they going to put up with the inconvenience? And the conclusion that they seem to be arriving at is that they won't do that. The Aussies and the Kiwis will be watching on their TVs, sure, but will Western Europe and will the United States? And I think they've come up with the answer that they probably won't. And they have adjusted their predictions, their forecasts of how much advertising revenue they'll be clawing in during the tournament and put their bids in accordingly. So the broadcasters have put their bids in and FIFA say, hang on a minute, this is a lot lower than we expected. But I don't think they can expect a lot more from them.
Yeah, I sense that's absolutely true. And you wonder, it would be hard enough, the men's game, whatever people feel about the men's game versus the women's game, but the irredeemable reality is the men's game is, it's firmly entrenched in our cultural psyche, as it were. People have followed it for years. They know all about the players. They can name the players. It's just a massive multi-billion-pound business. So they're ahead of the game in that respect.
Yeah, the women's game has been playing catch-up for decades, really, and it's been doing a good job as well. It's come on in leaps and bounds, and it is now a major sport in a legitimate sense. Yeah. And so I can see why they expect the big money from the broadcasters. But the broadcasters are commercial animals. They're saying, well, of course, we're looking for advertising revenue here, and we're not. And this is not necessarily a reflection on how we value intrinsically women's sport, but it does reflect how much money we think we're going to bring in from advertisers. So basically, to go back to the first point you made, right at the top of this topic, Ian, we have to face the immovable reality that the women's game is not as popular as the men's game. It has come on, but perhaps it's reached a plateau of popularity with the European and the American broadcasters. They're just going to say, well, we like your, we like your stadiums, and we think they're going to play in beautiful weather. The environment is absolutely perfect for football, but we want to sell advertising space.
It's as simple as that. Ellis, as ever, thank you. Ellis Cashmore, sociologist, cultural critic. on all manner of issues, just including the kind of psyche, if you like, around this game. There's a bit of it, let's be honest, there's a bit of an elephant in the room. I think I'm right in saying that most ardent fans of men's football are not ardent fans of women's football. Would that be fair? Now, I don't say that, I make no judgment in that statement, but I sense that is probably correct. When the England ladies won the European Cup, there was a sense we were following something. There was a sense that we kind of joined in almost momentarily to something we perhaps had never followed with any great interest before. We saw stadia that was filled out more than ever before. I know there's some points that counter that. The tickets were far more accessible. They were easier to get. I lost count of how many people I heard that were going to watch even the final. Oh, yeah, we're going. How many more people can go to a final? These tickets would be gold dust, sold out 2 years before. I saw people on the Wednesday before the final going, yeah, we're going, dead easy, no problem. And they were a lot cheaper. Now, there was a business reason behind this, and that was to try and bolster up the image of women's football in the sense that if you see full stadiums, then it creates and paints a picture. It means that you look at this and go, actually, there is something more to see here. So there was, if you like, a good reason behind that, and I totally got it and supported it. But I do wonder, and when I watch England ladies play, is the term ladies or women's? Because it's depending on which team you support. Women's football, ladies football. I think we're meant to say women's football, but there are some teams that have the word ladies in their title. I only mention that because apparently these things are very important. But when you watch women's football, I look at the England team and I just think, man, if I could play football like that, that would be incredible. That's just another level. I can't imagine. You're looking at, top sporting characters who can do stuff with a ball that I could never have done or dreamt of, and neither can most people watching it. You are looking at supreme athletes, there's no doubt about that. But I'm not looking at a game that I enjoy as much as the men's game. In fact, I'm not looking at a game that I have any interest in, frankly, other than when it reaches some kind of crescendo like a European or a World Cup. And if England find themselves in the World Cup final, I'll be the first with my popcorn and my beer, watching it, shouting it along. But until that moment, then I don't imagine... imagine England not being further down the tournament and discovering that the only matches you can watch are Croatia women versus Finland women that we alluded to. Now, I don't think you get many people watch the men's game at 3 in the morning. How many Brits are going to wake up and follow that? Seriously. For a sport that is still, in many respects, in its infancy, time will tell where it goes and whether it's able to make the same kind of inroads as the men's game. But I would ask you this. If you are a fan of men's football, have you converted? Has women's football now converted you? Are you now someone who thought, do you know what, I never thought I'd enjoy this, but I actually flipping love it? Have you found yourself in that place? Because that's what the women's game needs. It needs that kind of conversion because it's a commercial consideration, right? And until it gets that, it ain't going to really progress to the dizzy heights of where men's football is. That's just a basic reality. And you can fill stadia out if you flog tickets cheaper, but what that game really needs is a sort of a certain equality where you're willing to pay the same amount that you would pay for the men's game. So are you one of those that, against what you always believed, you found yourself becoming a convert to women's football and have found that it's you watch it maybe with a different eye, a different expectation, I don't know. But have you managed to find your way into that sport that you never thought you would? Are you one of those that always considered this is something that would have no interest to you, but actually the very opposite turned out to be the case? 0344 499 1000. Our lines are open. This is TalkTV.